Welcome to Unbelievable Stories. Today's story is full of shocking twists and real drama. Subscribe and like to stay updated. Let's dive in.
I'm Michael Carter, just an average guy who's been through his share of highs and lows. My soon-to-be ex-wife, Sophia Adams, and I first crossed paths at a college house party. Things clicked between us, and one thing led to another that night. Sophia had this adventurous side that caught my attention, but it also left me wondering about her past. Afterward, we exchanged numbers and I figured that would be the end of it. But a few days later, she texted, asking if I'd be at the next party. I hadn't planned to go, but her message changed my mind. Before long, our weekends revolved around each other. After 4 months, she asked me to meet for lunch on a Tuesday, and I figured we'd talk about the next weekend's party. Instead, she surprised me by saying she liked me and wanted us to start dating more seriously. When I asked if that meant being exclusive, she paused and said she wanted me as her main guy but didn't think it meant I'd be the only one. I told her that while I enjoyed our time, I was only interested in a serious relationship if it was exclusive. This took her aback, and I found out she was seeing at least one other guy, though she said it was only one, and would hear more about him later. I wasn't too bothered since we weren't exclusive, and we always used protection. My dad had given me a long talk before driving me to Jackson Academy, warning me about life-ruining situations if I ended up with the wrong girl. He reminded me about my uncle, who got stuck paying $420 monthly child support for a kid that wasn't even his. That sunk in, and I wasn't about to follow that path. So, when Sophia Adams agreed to be exclusive, I was happy. We started spending even more time together, and I felt things were going well. I was a junior in a mechanical engineering program, getting great grades and enjoying more attention from Sophia Adams than anyone else seemed to be getting. 5 months in, she started saying she loved me and wanted to stay together over the summer. I wasn't in love yet, but I liked her a lot, so I agreed. Winter break was coming up the next week, and I planned to go home. I asked her if she wanted to come along, but she acted strange and wouldn't give me a straight answer about her plans. When I checked her phone one night after a long session together, I found out she'd been talking to an old fling who was begging her to join him for a trip. She had initially said no but changed her mind when he offered to pay for a resort in Puerto Rico, flying her out. She had even asked her friends to cover for her, and of course, they agreed. This was the deal breaker for me. I decided to end things before summer came and focus on finishing my degree. The next morning, I bought her a coffee and suggested we shower together. I was rougher than usual, fueled by my anger, and she noticed. Afterward, I told her this was our last week together. She was confused, asking if I was breaking up with her. I looked her in the eyes and asked if she'd ever consider cheating on me in the future. She didn't answer directly but eventually nodded. She confessed everything, saying she hadn't actually cheated yet, but the trip was planned. She said the guy had a job lined up with her father's company after graduating, and that was why she hesitated to tell me. I told her to cancel the trip and inform his girlfriend about their plans. She reluctantly agreed and set up a lunch where she spilled everything. This caused a massive fallout. The guy lost his job opportunity, and he started sending her threatening messages, which led her to file a police report. After this, I needed her to feel the same pain I did. I told her she had to arrange a spring break trip with herself and 3 of her cheating friends. She was horrified but knew I'd expose all their secrets if she refused. Eventually, she agreed, and the week went by as planned. The next year, we somehow stayed together. I graduated and landed a lucrative job offer with a tech company, earning around $130,000 a year. When I asked her father for his blessing to propose, he brought up a prenup, mentioning her sizable trust fund. I agreed, provided it was fair and equally punitive if either of us cheated. He seemed surprised and joked that it must have been Sophia Adams who had the infidelity scare. Fast forward to today, and I'm now a mechanical engineer running a new division in Austin. About 3 months ago, I noticed Sophia Adams's phone bill had more activity than usual. I checked and found frequent calls and texts to a Dr. Vincent, a new doctor at the hospital where she worked. I casually offered to upgrade her phone and did some data syncing behind her back. I discovered that he had been pursuing her for months, and although she'd initially resisted, he wore her down. For the last 3 months, Sophia Adams had been more affectionate than ever, waking me up with morning intimacy almost daily. I set up an elaborate trap in my workshop involving some harmless but dramatic gadgets, including a paint spray device connected to some of her belongings. I also prepared for an impromptu live stream on our small YouTube channel, where we had around 5,000 subscribers. When the evening came, I came home with flowers and played the loving husband while setting up the camera to capture everything. Sophia Adams began explaining that Dr. Vincent had been harassing her, but she had found a way to get him to stop. As she continued, I could see the guilt on her face. She then confessed that Kendall had suggested she meet him at a conference for one weekend to secure her promotion. When she admitted she'd already agreed to go, I stepped back and asked her directly what that meant. She tried to backtrack, but I wasn't having it. The live stream had already gathered around 30,000 viewers. Sophia Adams revealed more details about the doctor's misconduct, other women involved, and the hospital's attempts to cover everything up. I told her that I had gotten a significant promotion, earning $620,000 annually, and that we were booked for a resort trip. But I wouldn't be taking her. The fallout was massive. The hospital faced legal action, several staff members were fired or arrested, and Dr. Vincent tried to flee the country. Meanwhile, Sophia Adams and I went to counseling. We moved to Austin, where my new job was, and Sophia Adams's dad agreed to foot the bill for her extended stay nearby. We continued with counseling for about a year. Eventually, Sophia Adams suggested a new postnup, adding a clause allowing me to see other women discreetly. She realized that after everything, she was still willing to try and make our marriage work, even if it meant unconventional terms. 6 years later, we've made it work, though I've discreetly been seeing my assistant, Ella Brooks. Sophia Adams knows about her, but we don't discuss it openly. We've also managed to blend our lives in an unexpected way. Sophia Adams, Ella Brooks, and I now share a close, albeit complicated, arrangement that seems to work for us. Over the past 8 years, life has settled into an unusual yet functioning routine. Sophia Adams and I have continued with our marriage, and while we've had our share of ups and downs, things became surprisingly smooth once we adapted to the new arrangement. Sophia Adams embraced the idea of focusing on our relationship while acknowledging Ella Brooks's presence in my life. It wasn't easy for her at first, but she gradually came to terms with it. Ella Brooks has been a steady part of my life, and though our relationship remains discreet, it's an open secret between Sophia Adams and me. Ella Brooks knows her boundaries, she's never pushed to disrupt my marriage, and our interactions are kept within clear limits. We see each other a couple of times a week, mostly at work or during business trips, but we maintain our primary roles in each other's lives. As for Sophia Adams, she initially struggled with the idea of the postnup clause allowing me to see Ella Brooks. There were moments when the pain was evident, but over time, she developed a sense of acceptance. The unconventional nature of our arrangement made us face some uncomfortable truths, but it also allowed us to move forward rather than dwell on the past. Despite everything, Sophia Adams has shown her commitment to making our marriage work. We've even discussed the possibility of having children together someday, although no definitive plans have been made yet. About 2 years ago, Sophia Adams made a surprising decision to approach Ella Brooks and invite her over for dinner. I was skeptical at first, wondering if this would just open old wounds or create more tension, but Sophia Adams seemed sincere in her intentions. To my surprise, the evening went well. They didn't become instant friends, but they managed to have a civil conversation, discussing everything from work to mundane life topics. This interaction gradually led to a sense of mutual understanding, albeit a cautious one. Around this time, our sex life began to shift. Sophia Adams started making more of an effort to rekindle the passion in our marriage, perhaps fueled by the desire to prove that our relationship was still the primary one. She would initiate intimacy more often and even suggested trying new things to spice up our encounters. It felt like she was reclaiming her place and reminding both Ella Brooks and me where she stood. To some extent, it worked. Our connection deepened, and I found myself genuinely enjoying the time we spent together. Eventually, Sophia Adams made an even more surprising suggestion that the three of us share the same bed on occasion. She framed it as a way to prevent secrets and build trust. If Ella Brooks was going to be a part of my life, she wanted to control the narrative. I hesitated, not wanting to force anyone into an uncomfortable situation, but Ella Brooks agreed. The first time it happened, it was awkward and filled with tension. None of us knew exactly what to expect or how things would unfold, but over time, these encounters became more natural. We didn't make it a regular habit, but it was clear that we had settled into a unique rhythm. The arrangement allowed Sophia Adams to feel more in control and less like an outsider in her own marriage. It also gave Ella Brooks a way to avoid being seen as just a secret mistress. She became a part of a dynamic, however unconventional it may have been. Now, it's almost routine. We share a large queen bed, with Sophia Adams on one side and Ella Brooks on the other. During these moments, I can sense the strange bond that has formed between the two women. They are not best friends, but there's an unspoken understanding between them, a sense of coexisting for the sake of the arrangement. There are still moments of jealousy and insecurity, especially when Sophia Adams thinks about the early days when Ella Brooks and I started seeing each other. But we've managed to navigate those emotions as a family. About a year ago, Sophia Adams and I revisited the conversation about starting a family. She expressed a strong desire to have children, despite the complicated circumstances. It was a significant shift from where she had been emotionally a few years earlier. The idea of building a future together as parents seemed to reignite something in her. I told her that if she truly wanted to have kids, we'd need to finalize some details in the postnup and make sure we were on the same page regarding our arrangement with Ella Brooks. Sophia Adams agreed, and we updated the postnup to include clauses related to child custody and support, ensuring that any future children would be protected regardless of what happened between us. Ella Brooks was made aware of our plans, and she took a step back from the situation, expressing that while she supported my decision, she didn't want to interfere with us starting a family. It was a mature reaction, and it reassured me that the dynamics we had established were sustainable. Since then, we've been actively trying to conceive, and while we haven't had any success yet, the process has brought Sophia Adams and me closer. We've had deep conversations about what kind of parents we want to be, and it feels like a chapter of our lives is about to start anew. Sophia Adams has even suggested that Ella Brooks could remain part of our lives after we have children, albeit in a different role, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. At the end of the day, our situation is far from conventional, but it works for us. It may raise eyebrows and some may never understand, but the decisions we've made have allowed us to rebuild what was once broken. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for now, we've managed to find a strange harmony in our unconventional family. We've learned to live with the choices we made, and though it's not perfect, it's enough. As we continue navigating this unconventional path, Sophia Adams and I are focusing on our future plans, including starting a family. We've both agreed that we want to be parents and are actively trying to conceive. Although the journey hasn't been easy, it's been a bonding experience that has helped heal some of the lingering wounds. We've had serious discussions about how we'll approach parenting, what kind of values we want to instill in our children, and how we'll navigate the complexities of our unique situation. Ella Brooks has gracefully adjusted to the shifting dynamics. Although she remains a significant part of my life, she understands that the focus is now on building a family with Sophia Adams. We've set clear boundaries to ensure that she remains separate from any future parenting responsibilities. Ella Brooks has expressed that while she cares about me and respects Sophia Adams, she has no desire to be a co-parent. Instead, she supports our decision and maintains her role in the background, which has helped keep the balance in our relationship. Sophia Adams and I recently decided to undergo fertility testing, just to be sure there were no underlying issues preventing us from conceiving. The results came back normal, which was a relief but also left us wondering why it hadn't happened yet. We are now considering fertility treatments if we don't see results soon, and Sophia Adams has even suggested adopting as a potential option in the future. We are open to whatever it takes to start a family, but for now, we are taking it one step at a time. In the meantime, our everyday life has continued to evolve. The arrangement with Ella Brooks isn't the focal point of our relationship anymore, it's more of a background element that exists without disrupting the primary bond between Sophia Adams and me. We've settled into a routine where Ella Brooks occasionally joins us, but the intimacy between Sophia Adams and me has taken on a new level of significance. There's a renewed passion in our marriage, perhaps driven by our shared goal of becoming parents and moving beyond the past. Around 6 months ago, we had another turning point. Sophia Adams suggested we travel together for a month-long trip across Europe before we fully commit to starting a family. She saw it as a way to reconnect, focus on us, and close the chapter on the difficult times. I agreed, and we spent the summer visiting places we'd always wanted to see, like Lisbon, Prague, and the Norwegian fjords. It was during that trip that I saw a side of Sophia Adams I hadn't seen in years, a carefree and genuinely happy person who seemed to have finally let go of some of the resentment and guilt. The trip brought us closer than ever before, and I felt more certain that we could build a strong foundation for a family. We talked extensively about the future, including what it would mean for Ella Brooks and how our arrangement would evolve if we had children. Sophia Adams proposed a plan where Ella Brooks would slowly phase out of our daily lives, remaining a friend but no longer sharing the same intimate role. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was necessary. We both agreed that our children should grow up with a sense of normalcy, without the complexities of our current arrangement confusing them. Upon returning from the trip, we began making concrete steps toward preparing for a family. We converted a spare room into a nursery, even though we hadn't conceived yet. It was symbolic for us, an act of faith that the future we wanted would eventually come. We've also started discussing names, parenting styles, and how we'll handle difficult conversations about our past once the kids are old enough to ask questions. There's a sense of closure that comes with these preparations, as if we are putting the final pieces of a complicated puzzle together. Ella Brooks, for her part, has gradually stepped back, respecting our wishes while still maintaining a supportive friendship. We continue to see each other occasionally, but the nature of our interactions has shifted. It's less about the romantic and more about the platonic, with a focus on maintaining a healthy boundary as Sophia Adams and I transition into this new phase. It's clear that Ella Brooks understands and is at peace with the evolving dynamics. Now, 8 years into this journey, I find myself reflecting on how far we've come. There were times when I thought our marriage wouldn't survive, but we managed to rebuild it on our terms. It took a lot of forgiveness, hard conversations, and unconventional compromises, but we've created a life that works for us. It's not the life I imagined when I first proposed to Sophia Adams, and it's certainly not a typical love story, but it's ours. As we look toward the future, I'm optimistic. We've weathered storms that would have broken many couples, and we are stronger for it. There's a sense of contentment in knowing that we faced our demons and emerged on the other side, ready to start a new chapter. Our family, when it happens, will be a testament to resilience and the ability to adapt. We may not be perfect, but we've learned to embrace the imperfect and make it work in our favor. We are still waiting for that positive pregnancy test, but I have a feeling it's just around the corner. And when that day comes, it'll be the beginning of a new adventure, one that I'm ready to take on with Sophia Adams by my side. A few months have passed since we returned from Europe, and our lives have continued to evolve. Sophia Adams and I are still trying to conceive, and although there's been no success yet, we remain hopeful. We've started fertility treatments, and while the process can be taxing, we are both committed to seeing it through. It's challenging at times, and the emotional rollercoaster has tested us, but in a strange way, it's also deepened our bond. The shared goal of starting a family has brought a new level of closeness that we haven't felt in years. We've also taken steps to prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally for parenthood. We are attending parenting classes and talking with couples who have been through fertility treatments, soaking in all the advice we can get. Our counselor suggested we confront any remaining issues from the past so we don't carry them forward into this new chapter. We've had long, raw conversations about the mistakes we made and the ways we hurt each other. There were tears and even some anger, but ultimately, we came out of it feeling more connected. It felt like we were finally closing the book on our old life. The nursery is now fully set up, and I often catch Sophia Adams sitting in the rocking chair, daydreaming about the future. Seeing her there fills me with hope and a sense of calm that I didn't expect. We've even started talking about baby names more seriously, and while we haven't settled on one yet, the discussions are lively and joyful. We've managed to stay positive, even when the setbacks come. Each month that passes without a pregnancy feels like a small defeat, but we remind each other to keep the faith. Meanwhile, the dynamic with Ella Brooks has continued to shift. We've established a clear boundary where she is now more of a close friend than anything else. While we still occasionally see each other, it's understood that her role in my life has changed as Sophia Adams and I move forward. I've made it clear to Ella Brooks that once we have children, her presence in our daily lives will be even more limited. She has been understanding and supportive, even helping Sophia Adams and me pick out a few items for the nursery. It's a bittersweet transition, but it's necessary for us to truly focus on our marriage and the future we want to build. Recently, Sophia Adams and I had another heart-to-heart about what we'll tell our children about our past one day. We know that, eventually, they'll be old enough to ask questions, and we want to be prepared with answers that are age-appropriate and honest. We agreed that we'd share the story in a way that focuses on the themes of forgiveness and resilience rather than the specific details. We want our children to understand that relationships aren't always perfect, but they can be rebuilt with hard work and commitment. This agreement felt like a final step in solidifying our path forward. Then, just last week, we received some news that gave us a new sense of hope. Sophia Adams had been feeling off for a few days, and at first, we chalked it up to stress from the fertility treatments. But when she took a pregnancy test, it came back positive. We were cautious not to get too excited, given the emotional toll the journey has taken on us, but a visit to the doctor confirmed it. We're expecting our first child. The moment we found out, it felt like the world had shifted. The sense of relief and joy was overwhelming, and for a brief moment, all the struggles we had gone through seemed worth it. We sat together in the nursery, holding each other, and I could see the happiness in Sophia Adams's eyes, a happiness that had been clouded for years. It was like a fresh start, a new beginning that we desperately needed. We decided to wait a few weeks before sharing the news with anyone, wanting to be sure everything was progressing smoothly. During this time, I found myself reflecting on the past 8 years, on all the hurt, healing, and growth. I realized how far we've come from the couple we used to be. There's no denying that we are different people now, shaped by the experiences we've shared. But through it all, we've managed to find our way back to each other. When we finally broke the news to our families, there was an outpouring of support. Sophia Adams's parents were overjoyed, and her father even joked about finally having a reason to pass down the family name. My parents were equally thrilled, and it felt like a unifying moment for everyone. Even Ella Brooks sent her congratulations and kept her distance, understanding that this was a special time for Sophia Adams and me. As Sophia Adams's pregnancy progresses, we're both feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. We've begun discussing all the things new parents do, picking out strollers, planning for the future, and even debating over who the baby will resemble. There's an atmosphere of anticipation that has filled our home, replacing the tension that used to linger. We are also making a few more adjustments to prepare for this new chapter. Sophia Adams has decided to take a step back from her job at the hospital once the baby is born. She's been offered a part-time consulting role that she can do from home, which will allow her to stay involved in her career without sacrificing time with the baby. I've adjusted my schedule to ensure I can be home more often, and we are hiring a part-time nanny to help out once the baby arrives. It feels like all the pieces are falling into place. The experience of preparing for fatherhood has changed me in ways I didn't expect. I find myself thinking less about the past and more about the future, what kind of father I want to be and the kind of life I want to provide for our child. There's a sense of purpose that's been reignited, one that feels stronger than any ambition I've had before. It's not just about rebuilding a broken relationship anymore, it's about building a family, creating something new and enduring. As we move closer to the baby's arrival, the bond between Sophia Adams and me has grown stronger. We've faced so much together, and though our relationship hasn't followed the traditional path, we've found our own way. It's not perfect, and it may never be, but it's real. It's ours. And with our baby on the way, it feels like we've finally reached the light at the end of a very long tunnel. The road ahead will undoubtedly have its challenges, but for the first time in a long while, I'm genuinely optimistic. Our unconventional journey has taught us that love doesn't always look the way you expect it to, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. We are ready to embrace this new chapter and all the unpredictability that comes with it. Whatever happens next, I know we'll face it together as a family. The first trimester passed smoothly, with only minor bouts of morning sickness. Sophia Adams's excitement grew with every appointment, each one bringing us closer to the reality that we were soon going to be parents. We began to share the news more widely, first with close friends and then gradually with extended family and colleagues. The responses were overwhelmingly positive, and it felt like everyone was celebrating this fresh start with us. As we entered the second trimester, Sophia Adams and I began making more concrete plans. We hired a decorator to put the finishing touches on the nursery and started setting up a baby registry. Every small detail, from choosing a crib to picking out tiny baby clothes, felt monumental. We were finally getting to enjoy the process of becoming parents without the constant weight of our past. Ella Brooks remained a supportive presence but stayed in the background. Her role in my life had transitioned fully to that of a close friend. She came over a few times to help us with the nursery setup, but the boundaries were clear and she respected them. Sophia Adams even expressed gratitude for the way Ella Brooks handled the situation, acknowledging that it took maturity to step back gracefully as our priorities shifted. Meanwhile, I noticed a change in Sophia Adams. She was more at peace than I'd seen her in years, as if the impending arrival of our baby had allowed her to truly let go of the past. Her enthusiasm for motherhood seemed to grow every day. She'd talk about the books she was reading on parenting, the plans she had for when the baby arrived, and how she wanted to approach balancing motherhood with her part-time work. It was heartening to see her embrace this new role so completely, and it reassured me that we were on the right path. Around the 5-month mark, we found out we were having a girl. The news was a pleasant surprise, and it made everything feel even more real. We started referring to her by the name we had chosen, Isabella. Preparing for Isabella's arrival became the central focus of our lives, and it was as if all the struggles and turbulence from before were fading into the background. We were entering a new chapter, and it felt full of promise. As Isabella grew, our lives became centered around her. Each day brought new milestones: her first smiles, the first time she rolled over, and eventually, her first little giggles. The days were long but full of joy, and Sophia Adams and I found a rhythm in our parenting that worked for us. Our marriage, while still touched by the shadows of the past, had entered a new phase where the focus was entirely on the life we were building together. Sophia Adams embraced motherhood wholeheartedly. She was attentive and nurturing, always putting Isabella's needs first, but she also made time for us to reconnect as a couple. We started scheduling weekly date nights, even if it just meant having dinner together at home after Isabella was asleep. We both recognized that while being parents was our new priority, nurturing our relationship was equally important. We wanted Isabella to grow up seeing her parents not just as a mom and dad, but as a loving couple who supported each other. Our extended families became more involved in our lives than ever. Sophia Adams's parents, who lived nearby, were frequent visitors, often offering to babysit Isabella so we could have some time to ourselves. My parents visited regularly, too, and seeing them dote on their granddaughter brought a sense of joy and unity that was once absent from our family gatherings. It felt like Isabella had become a bridge, bringing everyone closer together and mending old rifts that had lingered beneath the surface for years. As Isabella reached her 3rd birthday, Sophia Adams and I decided to host a small celebration at our home. It was a beautiful day, filled with laughter, family, and friends. There were balloons, a cake, and, of course, a lot of pictures to commemorate the occasion. As I watched Isabella try her first taste of cake, smearing frosting all over her face, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude. We had come so far from the turbulent days of our past, and this moment felt like the culmination of all the hard work we had put into rebuilding our lives. After the party, when the guests had left and the house was finally quiet, Sophia Adams and I sat together, reflecting on the past year. We talked about how much Isabella had changed us, how our priorities had shifted, and how we had managed to find peace after everything we'd been through. It wasn't just that we had moved past the hurt, it was that we had truly embraced this new life with open arms. There was still the occasional pang of regret or fleeting memories of darker times, but they were now just that, memories. They no longer held power over us. With Isabella growing older and becoming more independent, we began to look toward the future and discuss what the next chapter of our lives would look like. Sophia Adams had taken to her part-time consulting role with enthusiasm, finding it fulfilling to balance her career with motherhood. I continued to focus on my work, where the division I led was thriving, but I also made it a point to prioritize family over everything else. We had established a routine where I was able to work from home a couple of days each week, allowing me to be more present in Isabella's day-to-day life. We also talked about expanding our family. We hadn't made any firm plans yet, but the idea of giving Isabella a sibling was appealing to both of us. The thought of starting the process over again, sleepless nights, diaper changes, and all, didn't seem daunting this time around. Instead, it felt like a natural progression, a sign that we had truly moved on from the struggles of the past and were ready to embrace a future full of new challenges and joys. Ella Brooks remained a friend, though her involvement in our lives had continued to diminish. We still saw each other occasionally, but it was clear that our paths had diverged. She had begun dating someone seriously, and I was genuinely happy for her. There were no lingering regrets or unresolved feelings, just mutual respect and a shared understanding that the chapter we once shared had closed. When she told me she was moving out of state to pursue a new job opportunity with a partner, I felt a sense of closure. It was the final step in letting go of that part of my life, allowing me to fully focus on the present. As time went on, Sophia Adams and I continued to grow as individuals and as a couple. We weren't the same people we were when we first met in college, nor were we the same people who had struggled through the difficult years of our marriage. We had evolved, shaped by the experiences we shared, and found a way to thrive together. There were still moments when we had to work at our relationship. Marriage isn't something that can be put on autopilot, but we had developed a deeper appreciation for each other, and we didn't take our bond for granted. One evening, while we were putting Isabella to bed, Sophia Adams turned to me and said, "You know, I think we are finally where we are meant to be." Her words resonated with me. For so long, it felt like we had been clawing our way out of a hole, trying to find solid ground. But now, it felt like we had arrived. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and it was more than enough. Looking ahead, we continue to make plans for our future as a family. We've started saving for Isabella's education, planning more family trips, and even discussing buying a larger home to accommodate our growing needs. These are the kinds of problems that I'm grateful to have, the ordinary challenges of a life that, at one point, seemed like it would never be ordinary again. Reflecting on the journey we've taken, I realize that our story is one of resilience, redemption, and growth. It's a testament to the idea that even when things seem irreparably broken, it's possible to rebuild, piece by piece, with enough effort and the right intentions. There's still work to be done, as there always is in any relationship, but we are in it together, with a shared purpose that continues to strengthen us. As I watch Isabella grow, I'm reminded daily of the power of second chances. I see it in the way she reaches out to us, in the unconditional love she offers, and in the future that stretches out ahead of her, wide open and full of possibilities. We've given each other a second chance, too. And it's not just a second chance at love or marriage, it's a second chance at life, at creating something that truly matters. The road we've traveled hasn't been easy, and it's not the one I would have chosen had I known how difficult it would be. But standing here now, with Sophia Adams and Isabella by my side, I can say with certainty that I wouldn't trade our path for any other. It made us who we are today, and it brought us to this place, a place that, despite its imperfections, feels like home. And for the first time in what feels like a lifetime, I'm looking forward not with anxiety or doubt, but with hope and excitement for whatever comes next. Whatever challenges the future holds, I know that we'll face them as a family, together. And that makes all the difference. The baby shower was a special event. Sophia Adams's parents hosted it at their house, inviting family and close friends. There were moments of laughter, heartfelt toasts, and a few happy tears. It was the first time in a long while that I saw both sides of our family come together without any underlying tension. Even Sophia Adams's sister, who had gone through her own tumultuous divorce, seemed genuinely happy for us. The event was a reminder of how far we'd come and how much we'd healed. As we entered the final stretch of the pregnancy, Sophia Adams decided to start her maternity leave early to rest and prepare for the baby's arrival. She spent a lot of time nesting, organizing the nursery, folding baby clothes, and putting the finishing touches on Isabella's room. I made sure to adjust my work schedule so I could be home more often, especially as the due date approached. We attended a birthing class together, which was an unexpectedly bonding experience. It was comforting to be in a room full of other couples who shared the same nervous excitement we felt. Then, one evening in early spring, Sophia Adams began experiencing contractions. At first, we thought it was just false labor, but as the night wore on, it became clear that Isabella was on her way. We grabbed the hospital bags we had packed weeks earlier and headed to the hospital. The labor was long, nearly 24 hours, but Sophia Adams handled it with remarkable strength. I stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand and offering whatever support I could. When Isabella was finally born, the moment was overwhelming. The instant I heard her cry, a rush of emotion hit me like a tidal wave. All the stress, pain, and uncertainty from the past seemed to vanish in that single moment. I looked at Sophia Adams, exhausted but glowing, and felt an immense gratitude that we had made it to this point. Isabella was perfect, tiny, with a full head of dark hair and the most beautiful little face I'd ever seen. Holding her for the first time, I felt a love I didn't know I was capable of. It wasn't just a love for Isabella, but a renewed love for Sophia Adams as well. We had created this life together, and it felt like the ultimate proof that we had overcome everything that once seemed insurmountable. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about the past. I wasn't worried about the complexities of our situation or the mistakes we'd made. All that mattered was the tiny, precious life in my arms. The first few weeks after Isabella's birth were a blur of sleepless nights, diaper changes, and countless feedings, but also moments of joy and wonder. Sophia Adams took to motherhood naturally, and seeing her with Isabella filled me with a new sense of admiration for her. She was patient, attentive, and completely in love with our daughter. As for me, I embraced fatherhood wholeheartedly. I found myself getting up in the middle of the night just to watch Isabella sleep. There was a peace in those quiet moments that I hadn't felt before. As we settled into this new life, the changes were not limited to just us as individuals or as a couple. Our entire family dynamic began to shift. Sophia Adams's parents visited frequently, doting on their first grandchild, and even my relationship with them grew stronger. They saw how committed I was to Sophia Adams and Isabella, and I think it reassured them that the past was truly behind us. Ella Brooks continued to be a supportive friend from a distance. She visited once after Isabella was born, bringing a thoughtful gift and spending a quiet afternoon with us. We had an unspoken understanding that her role had shifted permanently, and while there were still feelings of affection between us, we knew that the focus was now entirely on my family with Sophia Adams. There were no hard feelings, just a sense of acceptance. A few months into parenthood, Sophia Adams and I had one more conversation about the future. We discussed whether we wanted to continue with our existing arrangement indefinitely or if it was time to truly close that chapter. We both agreed that, moving forward, our focus needed to be solely on our family. The arrangements with Ella Brooks, while important at one time, no longer fit the life we were building. We decided it was time to formally end that part of our lives, allowing Ella Brooks to move on fully, just as we were doing. We spoke to Ella Brooks together, explaining our decision with honesty and compassion. She took it well, expressing that she had seen this coming and was already preparing for the change. We assured her that she would always be a cherished friend, but the chapter that involved her in our relationship was now over. It was a bittersweet moment, but a necessary one for us to move forward as a family. Now, Isabella is nearly 10 months old, and life feels fuller than I ever imagined. The challenges of parenthood are constant, but the rewards far outweigh the difficulties. I find joy in the simplest moments, feeding Isabella, taking her for walks in the park, or just holding her close while she falls asleep. There is a sense of purpose in my life that I hadn't felt before, and for the first time, I can genuinely say that I'm at peace with the past. Sophia Adams and I have found a new rhythm in our marriage. It's different from what it was before, but in many ways, it's stronger. We've been through more than most couples, and it has shaped us into who we are today. Our love may have been tested, but it emerged resilient and renewed. We still go to counseling occasionally, not because we are struggling, but because we want to maintain the progress we've made and continue to grow together. Looking back, it's almost surreal to think about how far we've come. There were moments when it seemed like we'd never make it, but we did. We took a broken relationship, mended it in our own unconventional way, and created a life that's more beautiful than I ever thought possible. Our story may not be traditional, and it may not be what others would choose, but it's ours. It's a testament to the power of resilience, forgiveness, and the willingness to adapt. As I watch Isabella grow, I'm filled with a sense of hope for the future, a future where, despite the rocky start, we have built something real, enduring, and full of love. Thanks for watching. What would you do in a situation like this? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.